Welcome to the Core Truth. And today I have Bill Begert on with us, my good friend, my colleague, my partner in crime here at Douglas Elliman. Bill, welcome to the Core Truth. It's so great to have you here. And today we're going to be
Thank you.
talking about some really cool things. But I think before we even get started, and before I even name what we're going to talk about, I think we should learn a little bit about you. So talk about you a little bit,
Okay.
Bill. Who are you?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me back. It's great to be with you. I'm Bill Begert. I'm Chief Operating Officer for Douglas Elliman's Western States. I've been at Douglas Elliman now for 7 years. I've worked in residential real estate brokerage for almost 25 years. First in New York City and now here in California. And I have a really varied background. Before I worked in real estate, I worked in the visual arts for about a decade, most of that time in Los Angeles, but also in Miami. And I grew up in a military family. My dad was in the service. He went to the Air Force Academy for college. When I was born on an Air Force base in Delaware. He was a second lieutenant. He was just out of school, basically beginning his career when I was born. And by the time he retired, he was a 4-star general who had been commander of the U.S. Air Force in the Pacific, based in Honolulu. And he had responsibility. I mean, this is one of the top positions, basically, in the service. There's only a handful of 4-stars in each of the branches. And he's an extraordinary person who raised his family basically in the service, and achieved an incredible amount of success as a leader and as a professional.
Well, I think that's what makes you such a valuable employee to Douglas Elliman, is because you have sort of a left-right brain. You've got this art world, which I think makes you really, really effective in presenting the company to the world. You work very closely with marketing. I think you have a lot of design ideas and influence with that marketing, and it's evident in the beautiful brand that we have and that we've created. And on the other hand, you're an A to Z guy. You can run things from A to Z. You're very, very organized. You're very diplomatic. So some of these traits you got from your dad are very, very influenced as well, I would think. And
yeah, for sure. I mean, he's obviously a seminal role model for me in my life. Both my parents are. But seeing how he dealt with problems, how he carried himself, what sort of leadership he exercised. He wasn't a stereotypical. When we think of military leaders, military generals, we think of people who are very stern and very regimented and very maybe a little unfeeling or whatever. And that's really not the case. I mean, in order to be successful at that level, like any good executive leader, you really have to understand people and be empathetic to them. And you have to have vision and know how to get things done and all of that. But, you can't just be a hard ass. Like you actually have to make it work. And he's really, really good at that.
No, and people that are in his role and your role in business that are hard ass and can't, empathize with who they're talking to, aren't effective at what they do, because you often have to tell people no, Bill, and you have to do it in a way that they accept and understand. You know what I mean? And it's not a turnoff. And you do that really, really well. It's amazing, actually. I'm blown away by your skills, and what a great role model to have as your dad. So, 4-star Air Force general.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty incredible, right?
It is.
That's rare air. For sure.
It is. I mean, it's a serious accomplishment. He has his own Wikipedia page. If you Google my name, he and I have the same name. If you Google my name, his Wikipedia page will come up as the first result. You can read about him. It's interesting. People say we look alike. But being a good leader, the lessons I learned from him about, good leadership, how to achieve your goals, how to make a sort of wide-ranging organization work, were really important. And I think that they've actually, we've applied some of them, or I often apply them in my daily work, even now.
Well, one of the great things we did, I think, within the company, Bill, is Elevate, which was a kind of an event we put together that was a very unreal estate-like event. I think it was a first actually for many companies. It evolved into becoming Aspire, which is now a coveted event in the company. I think the agents really look forward to it. Talk to
Yeah.
us a little bit about the whole Elevate Aspire Element Experiment and what it meant to you, and even like your conversations with me and Stephen Kotler about that,
Yeah.
and how we developed this whole idea.
Well, it came about because when I first started working at Elliman and in the West Coast, the California operation, your company had just been acquired. Your agents were just learning about what DE was all about, and weren't yet really connected with their colleagues in other parts of the country. And one of the key things that agents need to be able to get out of the brokerage is an opportunity to build their networks and grow a referral base that can supplement their business and sort of take them to another level. And agents can get intrepid, hardworking people can build business to a certain point on their own, I think, but there's a point where you need a broader set of connections and just that chance to integrate with your colleagues who work in other parts of the country. So we were really thinking, well, how can we bring our agents together with their colleagues from New York and Florida and the other places where Douglas Elliman is, the Hamptons and Massachusetts, all these places. And we wanted to do something that would bring people together, but wouldn't necessarily be like a standard, real estate conference where we're yapping at them about statistics or something from a stage. Like, that didn't seem it didn't seem exciting to any of us, I think, but it also didn't seem very West Coast. I mean, we wanted to, if we were going to sponsor it in the West, we wanted it to have the flavor of the West and to bring our philosophical, beliefs to,
Right.
to bear, so that it would be interesting, fun, and give the right setting for them. And so we started talking about maybe we should do something that's fitness based. Maybe we should do something that's about good physical health, good mental health, the importance of these things, and the importance of these things for your business. And so, and that rang a bell for me because my dad had sponsored, when he was the commander at PACAF, he sponsored a program that was called Fit to Fight. And he actually sold this idea to the Air Force at large, not just for his own region, but it ended up being a nationwide program that the Air Force pursued. And the basis of it was relatively simple. I mean, the idea was that military readiness is at the core of their mission, and good health, good physical fitness is an essential part of being military ready. I mean, that in a way is at the very core of their mission. So as he had started to tour the bases that fell under his purview in the Pacific Rim, he was surprised that a lot of the fitness facilities were outdated. They hadn't been kept up. There weren't modern machines or equipment. The trainers who worked at them hadn't themselves received training in a long time, or if ever. So the gym employees were, needed to be sort of upgraded. And he thought, I have CapEx dollars that I can be spending, but this is an investment. I need to invest in these facilities because this is an investment in the military readiness of the people who work for me. And the only way that they can be fit to fight, really, is if we give them these kind of facilities and opportunities. So they rehab the gyms. They worked with the Cooper Clinic in Dallas to bring in trainers who would actually train the people who worked at the gyms and the physical trainers in the military, so that they would know, all about anatomy and modern training techniques and all of this. They changed and upgraded the diets that were available in the canteens in the military cafeterias, so that they would be more healthy and that they would actually be, appropriate diets for the people working in the military. And they mandated especially for the leaders, that in the military, or at least who reported to my dad, that they had to be physically fit. And the way that they checked on this was they didn't allow them to wear, one day a week, they had to wear their blue uniforms. So in the Air Force, they have there's a blue uniform that's very sort of, like dressy with a tie and everything. And then there are flight suits and camos and stuff. And people often wear flight suits. And the flight suit is very forgiving. It hides, if you've got a few extra pounds on you, the flight suit is a really good thing to wear because it's not going to be visible. But in the blue suit, you really can't hide what sort of shape you're in. So he mandated that one day a week, everybody had to wear their blue suits. And so everybody's like fitness level was going to be sort of visible. But after only 6 months of, once they sort of implemented a lot of the upgrades and started the program, 6 months in, you started to see the difference. People were fitter. They were healthier, body and mind. They were getting better results from them at work, and it was clear that if they were called upon, at the time that they launched the program, the military was actually in the Middle East. It was during a lot of the activity that was going on in Iraq, and so being fit, being able to withstand intense heat for long periods of time, it wasn't for people who were really out of shape or had a lot of extra pounds. You'd get heat stroke or you get exhausted. So it really was mission critical for them. And so anyway, the whole point of this is we began to talk about the fact that that's applicable not just for a military setting where, obviously there's a need to be physically fit for the work, but for really any career path, you want to, in order to do your best work, to feel confident about yourself, to be an inspirational leader, being physically fit can be a really important part of that, because it makes, you do your best work. It helps you to be confident when you give off a kind of,
well, you feel good about yourself. You stand
a little
differently, right? You dress a little different. Everything starts changing, and you're right. And you become a really, really positive influence.
Right.
Yeah. That's an amazing, amazing, amazing story. And it's even hard to believe that he had to reinitiate that in a sense. You would think that would be something that the military would be really focused on. But I guess after boot camp, maybe it just all goes to the whatever.
Yes, right. Or if you reach a certain level, like you're not where the rubber, if you're not,
or a certain age in life, like maybe when you're younger, you work out, and then you don't. Right.
Right. Yeah. Like the enlisted folks might, who have to actually be out on the front lines, maybe they're more fit. But like to your point, if you're older, you're a leader, you're in the background, maybe you let yourself go, are able to let yourself go more. And one thing that he said was, it was proposing Fit to Fight to the military brass and to get the investment was an easy sell. Everybody right away recognized the importance. Yeah. And that this was an investment that would give returns, really quickly. So we started talking about it in the context of Aspire, what we now call Aspire. And we thought, we should give the same message to the agents as salespeople who have to be in front of other people and have to gain their confidence and trust, and and want to having that self-confidence, having that presence. It's critically important for the work that they're doing.
Well, agents are stressed out. It's a very, very stressful job. You eat what you kill. You're working 24/7. And we deal with their emotions. And when they're stressed, they go off the rails a little bit. We know that. They know it. And so what we were trying to do is trying to bring in this thought of physical fitness, mental fitness, emotional fitness, even some spiritual fitness. And we brought in really interesting people like Mark Devine from SEAL Fit. We brought in what was that woman's name that climbed Mount Everest with the team? We brought in.
She led the first all-woman team to summit Everest.
I know it.
I'm sorry, I don't remember her name. She was amazing, and they, in a way, it was these people all talked about kind of the intersection of the physical limits of the body and the mental ability to overcome what may seem like your physical limits. Like it wasn't just about health and fitness. It was also about like your mind can exceed what your body thinks it can do.
Do you remember the story she told when they were up there and they were in that blizzard, and she said all they could do was put one foot forward ahead, one step, and then one step, and they were actually down to that, and they're summiting Mount Everest. And then I think the most fascinating part about our story is she failed the first time.
Yes. Right near the top, they had reached base camp 4 or 5, whatever the last one is. And I don't know if it was the weather or if they just,
or the weather, a big storm moved in.
They had to turn back, and she ended up coming back 2 years later and doing it. But you're right. The thing that moment where she told the story about how your goals for yourself become incrementally smaller and smaller and smaller until she thought, let me just get to this next rock. I mean, because her body was basically failing. You know, you're at that, under those extreme conditions,
oxygen, you're dehydrated, everything.
Right. And it was freezing cold. So, it became, let me just put my left foot in front of my right. Okay, now I'll put my right foot in front of my left. And that was basically how she managed to get to the top in the end. It
feels that way for us a lot, I know.
Yeah.
So Bill, let's make this a little personal now. Like, you and I talk about fitness all the time. Talk a little bit about your personal quest for fitness. I mean, Bill, you work out with a trainer. I know we talk about it all the time. We're trying to eat well as much as we can. I think an occasional piece of candy is fine, but we don't want to go off the rails.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about your quest for fitness. I mean, you're such a robust, healthy guy.
It wasn't always so. I mean, that's twice in my life. Once I got on the fitness, kick when I lived in New York for several years and got really serious about it, I thought. And then, I don't know, I started to slack and I was getting depressed, and I sort of let it go. And it really was when I moved back to California, when I decided to leave New York and start a new life here. I lived in California in the 90s, and so I was moving back here basically for the second time. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I needed a radical change in my life. So I needed a change of venue. I was hoping for a change of career path because I thought maybe I'd burned out on working in real estate, and I needed a new approach to my own happiness. And so when I first landed in California, ironically, I was living with my folks while I figured out where I would live and what I would do. And my dad, I think, got tired of seeing me sit around the house, and he said, "Why don't you take tennis lessons at our club? I'll pay." I thought, that's a good deal. So I said, sure. He knew I loved tennis, and I started, taking tennis lessons, and I was really enjoying it. But I also realized I'm too slow around the court. I'm too heavy. I've got way too many pounds on, and I needed to get better. And then the job opportunity at Douglas Elliman came along. Things started to sort of align for me, and I moved down to Los Angeles, and I was working with you, and I knew, that if I was going to get better at tennis, I was going to have to do something more serious and take this more seriously. And you were very polite about it, but you got on me a little bit, and
I don't remember that, but okay.
No, in a nice way. I mean, we were talking about the tennis actually, and I said, I'm not getting the results that I want, and I know it's because I'm not as fit as I could be. And you said you need to, why don't you join a gym again? Join a gym. And I said I did once in the past, and you were like, don't be afraid to do it a second time. I remember the exact words, don't be afraid to do it a second time.
Wow.
And I thought, he's really right. So I arranged to meet with a trainer because I thought I need professional advice. I don't really know how to achieve the goals that I have. I know what my goals are, but I really don't know how to achieve them. And I was very lucky. I got paired up with a trainer who started off by saying, what are your fitness goals? And I started to describe them, and I explained about the tennis and the limitations I was experiencing and all of that. And the first thing he said was, that's a really good answer. Most people don't even know what their goals are. They, maybe they'll say, I want to look better naked or whatever, but you have very concrete things that you want to achieve. And so that's wonderful, because it means we can cater what we're going to do towards that. But then the other thing about that is that a lot of what you're going to have to do to achieve these goals is not going to happen in the gym. It's going to happen separately, and it's going to depend on what you put in your mouth, what you eat, when you're at home or when you go out. And you're going to have to think really carefully about those things and probably change what you're doing. Talk to me about what you're doing. How much sugar do you drink? How many sodas do you drink? How much alcohol do you drink? How much fat? How much processed food? I mean, and he just broke it down into simple things I could really understand. Mm-hmm. And so that's really how it started. So the main thing was lose weight, get, faster around the court, and, have a sort of general improvement in your fitness, your strength, and your mobility. Mm-hmm. And I worked with him to do all of that for about 4 years, maybe 5. And every single year, at the beginning of the year, he would say to me, do you have any goals for this year? Do you have any fitness goals for this year? And a lot of times it was, I thought we were still on the right trajectory, and I didn't necessarily think of a change. But recently I did say to him, actually, I do have different goals for this year, because I feel like I've plateaued, but I also feel like there's another level that I could achieve if I changed it up or took a more serious attitude towards, what I'm eating. And, and he said, I've waited to hear these words. And I was like, you're kidding. And he said, no. He said, I can't want it for you. It has to be about what you want for yourself and what you. Right. So he said, so that's great. So knowing those goals, now let's recalibrate the program that we have. And so we changed it up. It was, so as my fitness got higher, my goals got higher. And then working together with him, we continued to evolve what we were doing so that it catered to those goals and helped me to do better. And it's been amazing.
I love this. And here's why this is so important, everybody. We are entering, I don't know if it's an age or a lifestyle where all of us are going to be working much longer in life than our parents did. Like maybe our parents retired at 55, 60, 65. I think that's kind of been the progression over the years. People now aren't retiring in their 70s, and even in their 80s, they're still working. And that's because life expectancy is longer, the cost of living is higher. And honestly, there's so much science around staying active and productive and being of service as being more fulfilling than sitting on a couch with a big gulp. So, yep. You know what I mean? So for so many reasons, taking fitness forward into our lives is key and critical. And I think we talk about this a lot, you and I, Bill, and with Stephen, is about the culture of fitness in the Western region. Talk a little bit about why you think that's an important part of our culture.
Well, for a lot of the reasons that you just said, for one thing, we are going to be living longer. We need to make sure that we're going to be, able to continue mentally acute, all of those things. The number one sort of related cause of early death for people is retirement. When people retire, it shortens their life expectancy more than almost anything else. So there's that. There's also, we're blessed in the West that we have the kind of climate and atmosphere that gives us the ability to be outdoors, to be, engaging in physical fitness year round without needing to, be in a sort of air conditioned, room to do it. And I think I mean, a lot of it may have to do with the film industry. There's, I hate to put it this way, but we do live in a society, at least here in Southern California, where people are working to be on camera. We are more and more, on camera on social media, even if we're not working in the film industry. And when you're in a sales business,
just
like
say it,
ours,
vanity.
vanity. It is vanity, but it's also about.
Yeah,
It's about, you only get one chance to make a good impression on people.
that's right.
When you meet them for that first time, and so I feel like, you know, being healthy, being fit, being in good shape, it
How about the mental health of it? I mean,
it presents really well, but it also gives you the mental clarity and the self-confidence, and there's a sort of intangible reality to the fact that people who feel good about themselves project that to others and help them to feel good about dealing with them.
but doesn't it also fight like dementia, Alzheimer's, all these other? I mean, there's a real strong connection between the physical fitness and the mental, even
Yes.
intelligence, I would say. It's so funny. At my gym, I can tell you, Bill, the gym I work out, which is CrossFit Malibu, everybody there is so smart. I mean, they're all have PhDs, masters, they're top of their
Right.
game in their industry, whatever it is. I mean,
They're not
whatever it is.
meatheads. I mean, it's
No,
not
I mean,
the stereotype doesn't really hold.
it does not hold. And there's a
Yeah.
direct connection, I think, with fitness and intelligence that is way underestimated. And we talk about the mental health. When you're working out a lot, you feel so much better mentally.
I describe my time at the gym, which I consider sort of sacred, as my mental clarity, because it's really the time when I don't have my phone on me. I'm not available to people outside, in my regular life. It's my time. I'm focused on something that is hard, and even sometimes painful, but also rewarding in the end. And even if I don't feel like being there when I wake up, I go, because afterwards, I feel energized. I'm ready to take on the day. I've accomplished something concrete in the morning before, I've done anything else. Like by the time I started work, I've already accomplished something. And I put all the problems and details that I have to juggle, in my working life, they're all put aside for that 90 minutes.
I love it. And one other thing, and this is a little off, but just talking to you, I'm always reminded about something we have in common, and that is that you and I like to keep our minds stimulated. And
Oh yeah.
like just recently, I've taken up an instrument. I'm going to college to learn to play my instrument. I know you're an avid bridge player. I know you do all kinds of puzzles and games to keep yourself active. Talk about that a little bit, because I'm the same way. I mean, I probably have too many puzzles and games going on my phone, but I enjoy it, and it makes me get creative, and I think that's so important.
So giving yourself mental activity is critically important. I mean, the television is a pernicious menace, because it's the most passive form of
The
entertainment.
opium of the masses, I think they call it.
Right. I mean, you're just laying back and sort of letting something wash over you, and it's very passive time, a very passive activity. But when you engage in mental activity that requires you to really apply yourself and think, if it's doing crossword puzzles, or playing the spelling bee or the Wordle, every morning, or playing contract bridge. So I played contract bridge at the tournament level for 15 years. And I went a long way down a rabbit hole in doing so, because it's a game with endless permutations, and but it teaches you so many important skills: concentration, teamwork, sociability, logic, how to think carefully and make decisions under stress. And they've actually done EEG, electroencephalograms imaged the brain of people while they were playing bridge, and the amount of brain power that it requires is much more than almost any other activity you can engage in. Ironically, one of the other ones that does that similarly is tennis. And people, both bridge and tennis, are believed to extend people's lives significantly because of the brain health that they promote. Because they ward off Alzheimer's and dementia, and force your brain to stay active and your synapses to keep firing. So I don't know, if you're not a card player, it could be, you don't have to play cards, but if you play cards, the ultimate game to play is bridge, and it's very, very good for you.
Wow. Fit to fight, everybody. What an amazing core truth today. Bill, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your ideas, and
thanks for having me back.
Story about your dad, even. I mean, what a great story. Thank you all for being here at the Core Truth. It's always my pleasure to host great people like Bill Begert. So I hope everyone has a great week this week, and stay tuned, and we'll be back. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.